And welcome. This is News of Interest with John Ubel. Today is Friday, January 8th, 2011. Before I jump into the news, I just want to give a short plug for my YouTube channel, which is suncoastnews.net. That's suncoastnews, one word, .net. And now for the news of interest. A few days ago, there was a story posted about how dozens of homeless people in northern India were killed by near-freezing temperatures from some icy Himalayan winds. Now, the reason that I'm mentioning this story, and granted it's an international one, but the reason that I'm mentioning this story is that over the last few days, there's been quite a few news reports across the United States talking about homeless people that have been found dead in different areas from the freezing temperatures and some of the sub-zero temperatures that we've had across the country in different spots over the last 2 weeks, especially with the blizzard that happened in the Northeast shortly after Christmas. Now, the thing about this story that we should pay particular note to is that homeless people really have no way of getting heat outside of going to a shelter. Granted, they can go into an abandoned warehouse and they can fire up a 55-gallon drum and throw wood into it and try to get warm that way. But usually it's not sufficient enough because there's a lot of wasted energy and wasted heat. It's just not energy efficient. But there's actually another way that, and this is a suggestion that I'm offering to all those people out there that are homeless or that could possibly see themselves as being homeless at some point in the future. One of the ways that the American Indians had kept warm in sub-zero temperatures or even cold climates was they used tipis. And there's a bunch of videos online. I've watched quite a few of them which show you how to make a teepee correctly and how to heat it from the inside. And for the way that a teepee is shaped, it's just very energy efficient, and you can actually use a limited or a small amount of fuel and fire on the inside of it, and you can actually keep it very warm. There are a group of indigenous people up somewhere north of the Arctic Circle that live in Russia, and I want to say it's north of Moscow, and I watched a really good RT piece, Russia Today piece about these people about 6-7 months back, and it was about an hour-long show. It was on YouTube, and it showed how these people lived in these teepees, and the temperatures, the lows in December and January in this region got to about 15 or 20 below during the winters, and the teepees actually kept them warm enough, and they were made from some type of buffalo hide or leather or something, and they were large teepees. They were probably, some of them I would say were 18, 20 feet tall, and they kept one or two families in them, and they were able to keep plenty warm enough with these fires, and I think that there's some lessons that can be learned from these different indigenous people. There was another good video that I saw a few weeks back, and it was about how a gentleman, he made kind of a makeshift pub tent, but it was a large pub tent, like kind of like an A-frame type of pub tent. And what he did is he used some stovepipe, and he actually made a small wood-burning stove out of some type of ammo can or something. I'll have to try to find the link and post that when I archive this on my YouTube channel. But he said, and he was in the snowy weather, where it was snow-covered ground when he was shooting this video, and this little wood-burning improvised ammo box stove was able to keep him warm enough while there was snow on the ground, and I think that the temperature was somewhere in the teens, and it was effective enough. So there's actually ways, even if you're totally flat, broke, dirt poor, homeless, there's still ways that you can survive by scavenging and finding these different types of items So it's not a totally hopeless situation. Unfortunately, a lot of homeless people get caught up in that, and they start drinking. Some of them get into drugs, and then they just go down that self-destructive path, and they never come back. So there are ways to survive. People need to keep that in mind. Now, this next piece of news is about how several state governments across the country, there's actually been 10 states now that have introduced what are called gold coins as currency bills. And I'm just going to read a short snippet of this. Legislators in at least 10 states have introduced bills in the past few years to allow state commerce to be conducted with gold and silver. Georgia State Rep. Bobby Franklin recently reintroduced legislation to force his state to conduct all monetary transactions with U.S. gold or silver coins, including the payment of taxes. Now, what this says to me is that some of the state governments are realizing or have the foresight to see that we're going to have a significant amount of inflation or perhaps hyperinflation with the U.S. dollar, and they're trying to protect their states or insulate their states from this hyperinflation fallout. And it's actually a smart thing to do. This is something that all the states should have been doing several years ago to try to get ahead of this thing, and we would all be in much better shape now if they had done that. So, but I really can't stress how important it is to invest in gold and silver, because really that's one of the best, if not the best, ways to insulate yourself from a falling dollar. Back during Germany's Weimar Republic in the early 20s, they were having inflation. I want to say it was somewhere about 50 or 100% per month, and this went on for a couple years, and then finally the whole economy just pretty much collapsed. But what had happened was, before this cycle happened with their hyperinflation, they had, I want to say it cost maybe about 100 Deutschmarks to make or to buy 1 ounce of gold, and then at the end of it, before the economy collapsed, it took something around maybe a billion, I think it was, Deutschmarks to buy 1 ounce of gold. And this was in a period of about 2.5 or 3 years. So it really tells you that commodities, gold and silver, hold their value. All commodities will pretty much hold their value, whether it's base metals like copper and zinc and iron, or precious metals like gold, silver, platinum, palladium, those types. So it really makes sense that if you have a significant amount of money in the bank, if you have $100,000, do yourself a favor and take 20-30% of it, put it in gold and silver. You know, if you want to try to diversify your risk a little bit, take that $30,000, take 15 of it, put it in gold, take the other 15, put it in silver, and take physical possession. Buy physical silver, buy physical gold. Take it, hide it. Don't tell anybody. You don't need to put it in the bank. You don't need to put it in a safety deposit box. Just hide it in a place that you can get to it when you need to. It makes good sense, especially in these times. Now, I do want to mention one little item as well. For those people who still actually have businesses, because so many little businesses have been wiped out over the last few years, something what people should do, business owners should do, is really look at community currencies, because I really see those becoming much more popular in the near future. And if you can get a group of businesses together to start a community currency, that will be just one more way that those businesses can insulate themselves from the coming hyperinflation. And a great site or a great online magazine about community currencies or alternative currencies is Community Currency Magazine, and you can find their site at ccmag.net. Also, the Ithaca Hours website is another good one. Just type in Ithaca Hour in a Google search, and their website will come up. So with that said, I'm going to take a very short break, and then I'm going to get into the rest of the news here. Okay, and I'm back. And the last story that I want to mention is about Governor Rick Scott. And Governor Rick Scott is the recently elected Florida governor, who's a Republican, who has somewhat of a questionable business record. And now he's the governor of Florida. Now, he's made some pretty, how shall I say, unrealistic statements about how he's going to cut taxes and regulation and how he's going to somehow bring jobs to Florida. And I really don't see any of that happening. I'm a native of Florida. I've lived in this state my entire life, and I would really like to see it somehow get on the path of progress, but I just see it going further down the path of self-destruction in many ways. I mean, there's always, even in a society where you have a full-blown depression and there's rampant violence and all types of criminal activity and everything's breaking down, you're still going to have people that are going to do well. So I want to make that clear, because there's a lot of people out there that they see a lot of bad news, they get really depressed, and, they start contemplating crazy things. But for those that are resourceful and those that have a little bit of foresight and creativity, they can still do well. With that said, Rick Scott and some of the statements he's been making are they're just ridiculous. I mean, I just don't see how he's going to be able to implement some of the things that he's talking about or deliver on them, for that matter, because this state has so many economic problems, it's not even funny. Florida, as it stands right now, is second in the United States, behind California, in credit card delinquencies. I know from a local realtor that I was talking to in my own home county of Pasco that 1 in 20 homes in my county are in some stage of foreclosure. Now, that doesn't include people that are behind on their payments that haven't yet had a notice of foreclosure filed on their home, because there's a whole bunch of those people that haven't been paying their mortgage for months, but the banks and the firms representing the banks haven't got around to filing that lis pendens or notice of foreclosure. So, and that's just Pasco County. And Pasco County, compared to some of the other counties in the state, there's 67 counties in the state of Florida, but compared to some of the other counties in the state, really isn't that bad off. But we are bad off, because with a number like that, you can't be doing well, not by any measure. So I hope somehow that Governor Scott will be able to improve the state's economy and perhaps the quality of life, but I'm extremely skeptical, because he's basically like every other politician that comes into office or that campaigns for office, in that they make all these huge promises. They're going to be able to do all these things. They get into office, and they don't do anything. If anything, they make things worse, because in order for them to attain that office, they had to take a bunch of political contributions from special interest groups, and then when they get in office, then they have to deliver on those contributions, meaning political favors and all kinds of different things. So we'll just have to see how this governor does. But as I said, I'm very skeptical. And that's pretty much going to do it for this show. So I do want to plug my YouTube channel again. And I actually put up a new video yesterday about two of the local businesses that are closing. One of them is a fashion bug, and the other is a dockside home decor store. So I did a short video about that. So if you could watch it, it's definitely worth checking out. And that again is at suncoastnews.net. So with that said, thanks for listening.